Hey guys, hope you're well. Max here from MHS Prod and Motion Designers Community. Today we will take a look at Urender, a real-time render for Cinema 4D. So we will take a look at this renderer because I developed more and more interest into real-time render. We will try to see how it works, and of course the comments are open to know your opinion about Urender, but also the other real-time render like Eevee or Unreal. I think it's really great to discuss every real-time render, what's their strength, what's their limits, and what do you think about all the things that we will be able to achieve with real-time render. So today I stay on Cinema. I know that Blender Eevee is free and exists, but I really wanted to stay inside one of my favorite software and see all the things we can do with Urender. So I tested it myself on few scenes because there's of course always a difference when you see awesome demo scenes and when you try things by yourself. And spoiler, I'm pretty happy with the performance of the renderer and what you can do. And I will also talk about my point of view, what I think are the strengths, but also the limitation of a real-time render in general. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to join our Facebook group called Motion Designers Community. It's a really great group full of really nice people, really nice work, when you can share, where you can share your tutorials, opinions, jokes, meme, and whatever. And you can also join us on the Discord of the community, where you will find a bunch of nice channels like interesting news, tasty tools, inspiration, job offers, and a lot of cool, helpful channels. Now let's take a look at Urender. As you can see here, it's directly in the live viewer of Cinema 4D, and it is really great. Let's take a quick look at how it reacts in real time. So it's pretty responsive, which is great. And you can rotate the light of the HDRI to get an idea about how nice it is. So here it uses image-based lighting. It means that you can light your scene with an HDRI and also create reflection. I will break down quickly another scene and then we will start from scratch so you can really see the power of this renderer for Cinema 4D. Now let's take a look at this scene that is a little bit more complex. I wanted to try out the emissive and fog workflow, which looks great. And I wanted to see how far I can go with the renderer. So it's a really simple setup, and which is great is that it's still real time. The only little point that will need like 1 or 2 seconds of computing is the fog. If you see, if I'm moving in the scene, it needs like 1 or 2 seconds to refresh the fog. And here I'm using a resolution of 2K. You can change the resolution at any moment by going into the dashboard and changing the live view. Of course, the smaller it is, the faster it will be. But I really wanted to try at higher resolution to see the performance of the renderer, and it's great. I love it. Let's see if I change the HDRI orientation. It's nicely responsive. And let's change a little bit one of the light here, creating this cool volumetric effect. So as you can see here, yeah, it's providing quickly nice effects. So let's go back into the camera. Let's disable the HDRI as a background. And yeah, as you can see, it provides nice volumetric effect. If you want to learn more about the renderer, I suggest to also visit the YouTube channel. They have a lot of nice examples, really great examples like the mountain, or other one that I really enjoy, like this one, or the eagles. As you can see, it's really nice. We don't have that much aliasing, if like barely nothing. And you can also check their Instagram. You have a lot of really cool example. Also, they will release soon next version that will probably improve the depth of field, and it starts to look really interesting, because to me it was one of the points that needed the most improvement. And you also have other really cool example. I really like this one. Really cool example of what you can do. And another thing that I really liked is the one with the spider. I think it displays well the type of style you can easily get with this renderer. This kind of really dark and moody universe. So yeah, feel free to check more on their YouTube and Instagram. Now let's do a little tutorial to see how it works, and you will see that it's really simple. To enable Urender, there is two ways. You can go to Urender, start Urender, and it will start the renderer in the viewport of Cinema 4D, or you can also go to Plugins, Urender, and what I will do is undock this and simply dock it on the left of my screen. If I click on Use Studio, it will launch the viewport like this, and I will start to see my model. If you're jumping between several scenes, you may have to clear scene and click on Studio Sync, just to make sure that your geo is right here. As you can see here, I have the resolution in the bottom, and I will just make a bigger one. So we'll go to Dashboard, Live View, and I will go to Live Resolution, Custom, and let's put it at something like 2K. Here I'm using a 4K screen, so I want to see how it reacts on bigger res. I will also update it here, and a nice thing that you can see is that by default, when you click on Use Studio or Start Urender, it will change the renderer for Urender. You don't have to set up a lot of things in the Urender. Into Basic, you don't have that much to change. Maybe you want to enable multi-frame sampling if you notice some aliasing on your scene, and when you want to do a final render, the more samples you will have, the less aliasing you will get, but sometimes it can take up to a few seconds to render an image instead of no time. Then you have the environment, and by default you will find an HDRI. If you go to preset, you can go to no environment, or you can also load your own environment. So I will load one of my HDRI, so we'll get something a little bit more interesting. I will load a basic HDRI, I will click on no, and I will start to see the changes here. Also by default, I don't see nicely the reflection of my HDRI, so I will also create a Urender material. I can click here or go to Create, Shader, Plugin, Urender material. I will simply drag and drop my material here and start to see a little bit more the reflection. I think that it's a little bit too dark, so I can go here in exposure and put a value of 2, and under horizontal rotation I can rotate my environment. I will zoom also in my scene, so we just see a little bit better what's happening in the view. So let's go back to our render settings and let's see the other parameters. So here you have the tab for volumetrics that we will only touch if we add a lot of volumetrics later. You can enable screen space reflection. Here you have the shadow maps. So the bigger the shadow maps are, the better shadow you will have, but the more VRAM it will take. You can see the VRAM used at the bottom here. Under effects, you will have some effects like the motion blur, the depth of field, or the AO. So I like to use ground truth AO. I think it gives nicer result. You have also post-processing tab that we will see once we finish our image. And here you can save your multipass when you will do your final render. And that's pretty much all. You don't have that much things to change, and I think that's really great when things are simple and works easily. So what is really important in real-time renders is to have really nice textures. So I just downloaded some texture that we will add to our model. So we'll change the projection mode to something like cubic. And I will start to load in my Urender materials some maps. I suggest to use websites like Polygon, Megascan, or physically based material where you will have a diffuse, roughness map, and a normal map. This will really help to get better results and better materials than simply using flat colors. As you can see, you don't have node editor like Redshift or Octane, but it's really simple. Like, you will plug your diffuse into the color, you will put your gloss map or roughness map under reflectance, your normal map under normal. So it's really straightforward. Maybe it will remind you a little bit of Element 3D for the people who used that plugin on After Effects. So let's load our textures. I will drag simply base color here, and let's say no. And I will also change the projection mode to something like cubic because I have uneven UVs on this model. I will change also the scale. As you can see, I changed a little bit the scale. And let's load also the normal map. So I will not load all the maps because I want to create something a little bit custom. Let's load normal map and make sure it's enabled. So here we will start to see some details on our model, and we can control the amount of details we will have. So maybe I will duplicate this material if I want to make some little changes, and simply change the color. So I'm using like metal texture, but I wanted to have something a little bit more fake to fit the model. And then I can start putting some textures on the model on the different parts. So I will speed up this this video, and yeah, we will see at the end how it will looks, and we will start to see how to add some volume to our model. Okay, so now we will start to try out some volumetric light to see how it works, and start building cool lighting to see how it reacts. So to add some volume, it's really simple. You just have to click on Urender volume, and by default it adds a sort of infinite volume, and you can also add a cube that you will be able to put at some place with a bounding box. So it's nice to create some sort of clouds and such things. So for us, we will just add Urender volume and start adding some light. So To add a light, you will simply need to add a Cinema 4D light. Right click, go to Urender tags and Urender light. By adding Urender light, you will be able to change few options like the attenuation, the shadow, and of course it will produce better result. I like the effect by default that it adds this sort of background gradient. So I will just make sure to lower a little bit this effect right there. And I think it's interesting enough. Now I want to add some real volumes to the scene. So I will use a spotlight, and as you can see, the spotlight produce a really interesting effect. Of course, if you add a camera, you will need to add the Urender camera tag if you want to enable depth of field, motion blur, and you can also add the Urender object to your object if you want to enable backface culling on and off. And I think you can also control backface culling in the geometry parameter here in the renderer, but I don't need that. So let's reduce this and let's start. Let's click OK, always on top, and let's change the position of that just after we added Urender light tag. So let's move and let's try to put that into a cool angle like that. As you can see, my object scale is pretty small, so let's simply reduce a little bit the whoa, yeah, my object is really small, so let's put that. It's like small figurine size, maybe even smaller, and as you can see, it's already produced this cool volumetric effect. Here we can enjoy it in the background. So let's change the position and orientation to see how this will react. I want to create this sort of God rays, cool God rays effect, and I like the fact that it reacts like that. I think it's really interesting. And I can also change a little bit the color of the light if you want to create a cool effect, like yellow, but here I will stay with something pretty basic. And I think I will probably need to make a little bit more samples in my volume, because here we can see some little banding effect. So let's go to Volumetrics, and I think by increasing the subdivision, this should update the effect. Okay, so let's make ×2 on each one, and let's change a little bit those parameters. Yeah, I think by having a real scale effect, that would probably fix my effect. That's my fault, this model is a little bit small, but here that's already better than what I had. And what I can change here is also the density of the fog if I want something more or less dense, and I can also play with the phase to impact directly the effect. So now you can do some latest tweaks like post-processing, adding chromatic aberration, adding vignette. I will just increase the softness, and make the radius a little bit larger, and I can color correct. Let's say we want more contrast to it. Oh, that's a little bit too much. And yeah, you can also play with your curves. Let's say you want a little bit more bluish tones, and boom, you have something already cool that could be used for VJ show or anything. So as I told you, using volumetric will slow down a little bit things, and you will just have to wait like 1 or 2 seconds so it updates. But that's really not a problem, because it already provide nice result at something really fast. So yeah, I think it's a pretty nice result. And now if you want to render your image, you simply have to go under your parameter. Maybe you want to put multi-frame sampling with an higher value, and yeah, I think it's already interesting quality by default. So I will just save it somewhere. I will just save it like as a simple PNG, and yeah, that's all. And if you want to save a video, well, let's do a PNG sequence. So let's save that, and let's see how much time this will take at final render. So maybe with the anti-alias filter added, this will take a little bit more time. Okay, it was like 1 second render, but it took like 6 seconds to send the geo. But if we were doing like a sequence, I think that will be faster. So let's try to animate this, and the light, just to check how fast it is, because I'm always interested to make myself the examples, because in demos sometimes you can have some, you know, optimized scenes or something that doesn't work the same at home. Okay, so let's not be dumb and let's put all frames. Okay, let's click on yes, and let's wait. Okay, so here it's parsing scene, and here, okay, so yeah, it takes like 4 seconds per frame, but I'm at 2K resolution. I added full subsampling to make sure that it looks really great. So yeah, that's pretty interesting performance for Cinema 4D render, and as you can see, it works pretty well. The quality is great. So yeah, and as you can see, some examples displays what you can do. So now let's close that render, because we have an idea about how fast it is, like 4 seconds. I think it's okay for the parameters that I put. If I wanted something faster, maybe I should optimize more my scene with a better scaling and changing a few of those things. But it's pretty great performance. So now let's conclude. My opinion on the renderer is that it's really great, and the biggest advantage it has, it's that it's directly inside Cinema 4D. Many of you will probably ask why not Eevee for Blender, because it's free, or Unreal Engine that looks really awesome with the new release, where you can put a lot of super high geo and run big scenes real time. To me, the biggest point is you want to stay inside of Cinema 4D. Let's say you want to use all the MoGraph tools without having to bake them and send them into Unreal, or without having to send them into Eevee. That's really important. So that's one interesting point. About the render quality, I think it's really great, and as a professional at the moment, I mostly see usable for VJ show or for some abstract design. I don't think we can use that for high quality print or even use that for some paste tracing render with some glass and some complex material, but it does a really great job. So for all the VG jobs, lyrics videos, and many things, that's really interesting. And for educative purposes, I think that's the one of the most interesting point to me. It's because many people at school learn Cinema 4D when they do motion graphics classes, and they use the standard render, maybe Octane and Redshift when they are lucky, when they have an NVIDIA card, and still with Octane or Redshift, you need a minimum of 1 minute per frame if you want to work on something great quality. Sometime it will be smaller, but most of the time for the computer specs of the student, it's still pretty slow. And I know that could be a pain point, the renderer, when you learn 3D. Of course, you cannot replace Octane or Redshift with a real-time render, whether it's Eevee, Unreal, or Urender. But I think it's a great addition because you can already see what you do and funny result or fun things that many teachers show at schools, like this kind of dynamic system. I think this could make the student more motivated and not fear the renderer. So yeah, my conclusion is I see interest into Urender for VG things and educative purposes, and in the longer term, maybe for many more things, because on their latest post they said that they improved some features and it looks already really nice. And if you check also Eevee, it's evolving pretty fast, and it's more and more looking like cycles. Of course, not exactly, but we can feel the improvement of all the real-time renderer. So I'm excited to see what's the future of Urender, and if middle term they will keep increasing their quality, so in more complex job you can replace like a Redshift or Octane, except for really particular case where you will need caustics or a beauty product render. But from what I see, it's already in really good shape. Thank you for watching this video. You can also subscribe to my personal Instagram MHSMax, and you can send me a message to suggest me new tutorials or things that I should test. And I will be really happy to connect with you to know more about what do you want to see in the future of this channel. Bye bye.